live in I live in Little Rock, but I am a native of Northeast Arkansas, and then went to college in Jonesboro. And I kind of thought I'd start off by showing some of my favorite pictures, like the northern saw-whet owl and the hooded merganser. So I've been birding my entire life, but I didn't really get into the birding community in Arkansas or travel to bird until mid 2012 when okay when I lived in Stuttgart in Arkansas County and I was looking for a new hobby. Oops, let me go back. Sorry. And there was a brown booby spotted at Lake Norrell, and it kind of sparked my interest. And I decided to make that my first bird related trip. I contacted Dan Shaman for the first time, who introduced me to the state's birding community and also kind of sent me some resources. And after that trip, I was kind of hooked. I decided that it was going to be my new hobby. I just wanted to get outdoors more. I wanted to become more active, and I thought this would be a great way to do it. So I set two goals in 2012. My first was to find as many Arkansas bird species as I could. And then the second, since I enjoyed photography, tried to photograph as many as possible. So when I started creating my life list, I kind of started slow and steady for the first 10 years. And then in 2022, I decided to pick up the pace. I saw others at 300 live birds and kind of decided I wanted to be at that number as well. And while I was trying to pick up the pace and get to 300, I decided I became a little bit more focused on eBird. And the entire time for the past 12 years, I've been maintaining a separate digital checklist that's kind of easier for me to access and review, especially when I'm in the field and I don't have a lot of good service. And those digital checklists, I'm keeping one simply the birds I haven't seen yet, and it's by taxonomy, so like ducks, geese, swans, quail, that type of thing. And then the other one is the overall list that I've shared on the right. That's just saying, what birds I've seen, the year I first saw them. I'm looking to my best photos that I've taken of each one, and then what I still like. And through keeping this checklist and trying to reach my goal, I've learned to take advantage of eBird. You can say eBird alerts for rare birds and species you have not personally recorded. Mine is set to hourly. I was kind of given that advice by some more expert birders in the state, and it's really worked out for me. And if a rare bird is spotted, go sooner rather than later to see it and to not give up. The one example of this is the redneck grebe in the middle photo. I went 5 times to Jonesboro to find that bird. And the fifth time, well, the first and second times I actually ran into my cousin and his girlfriend. So it wasn't a wasted trip. I got to be the first person in my family to meet my cousin's girlfriend, which my aunt was not happy about. But on the fifth time I went, I kind of decided that that was going to be my last trip. If I see it, great. If I don't, I'm not going back. So I entered Craig Cave Forest and walked down to the lake, and there was tons of ducks and other little birds on the water. And I saw one bird flying toward me and landed just around the bend. And then it kind of came paddling around the shore toward me. And I sat down just to watch it, and it ended up being that redneck grebe. So I was kind of excited that I didn't give up because I was really close. And then another is the golden eagle that I have to include because I spent 12 years hoping to find it, and I finally did this January. And it's just because I was and some others were watching those eBird alerts and seeing that it was being spotted. and Atkins bottoms. And I've learned to also take advantage of activities that allow me to bird with others, such as the society's field trips. Every time I've gone, I've either found a new bird, especially when we go to the Port of Little Rock, or gotten a better photo of a bird I haven't that I've seen before, but had maybe a not so good photo of. And I've learned not to be afraid to ask others about birds or where to find certain birds and any other questions. One such bird is the grasshopper sparrow up top. I didn't really know where to find those until I was part of this birding group. And this woman had this guaranteed road she always found them on. So me and another friend just went and we got lucky and this one popped up right beside us. Another is the least bittern, which I'm really excited about because I've always wanted to see the bitterns, and those were kind of my target loft birds last year. And I went to Overflow Refuge with the idea that I'm probably not going to see it this time, maybe another time, but I'll just see, what I could find. And I pulled up and was going through, and I found 5. And so that was a really good find that I didn't really expect to find. And then I've also asked on the Bird of Arkansas discussion list where to find barn owls. And they were able to point me to 2 in Marion by Wapanaka, where the females actually passed away. So the male is now kind of hit or miss if you can see it. I've also learned to use the mobile apps available to me. I use the eBird app to create my checklist in the field and so I can quickly share them with others I'm traveling with. And I use the Merlin Bird ID to see what's calling around me. I know you have to be kind of cautious with it and make sure you verify what you hear, what it's hearing by what you hear and see. But I did make sure I do that before I put on my checklist. And it has helped me find birds that I haven't seen before just by seeing it's recognizing it's hearing this call. So it gives me an idea to look up, see, okay, what does that bird look like and help me locate it. And that's how I found this Bell's Vireo. And I believe that was at Bon Knob. And then I also use the Canon's Camera Connect to download photos I want to share while in the field. That's usually when it's a rare bird or just something that I'm not quite sure about. And when I get to my photography live list, I've it was a go because I love photography. It was also to make sure that I'm actually seeing what I think I'm seeing. And I think we've all gotten those emails from Dan or Reagan and Taylor saying, hey, are you sure about that? Or kind of correcting. So it's helped me to make sure my photos are actually what I'm saying they are. And it's just easier to provide a photo than try to write out and type out what a bird looked like, especially when shorebirds all look the same. But the downfall of my photo life list is a photo can kind of sometimes lead to more questions and no answer. So the photo I'm providing to the right is a 2020 photo from Bon Knob. And at first I thought it was a curlew and I was really excited. And Dan came back and was like, that's a stilt sandpiper. Be a little bit more cautious. And then in 2023, I had Charles Mills contact me asking for some more photos of it that he was really thinking it was that curlew. So he sent it to other birders who were a little bit more expert at shorebirds in Arkansas, and then 2 of his friends that were from different parts of the nation. And the conclusion was they weren't sure. So I went ahead and changed this photo to a sandpiper species based off of Charles' recommendation. And if you have any questions, please just speak up. So I use a mirrorless Canon R5 right now. I started with a Canon Rebel and then moved to 70D before I moved to my current camera. And lens, I usually used to use a 300, and now mainly I use my 600. And I have an 800 that is fixed that occasionally I will pull out. But all cameras are good. I know people that use point and shoots, and then others who do have the DSLRs as well. It's mainly just what you're comfortable with, and it just takes practice and going from there. And really, I'm not the type of person to ask about cameras or lenses to use. My big thing is just learning your camera and checking your settings often while you're out in the field to make sure that you're getting the photos that you're wanting. And to see what tools others are using and seeing if that's something that you might be interested in. And taking classes, and don't forget to video or record as well. I tend to forget to do either one of those. It's usually when I see something that I just get super excited about, like this Limpkin, that I did stop to video just because I thought it was fascinating. So when it comes to the photos I take a lot of photos. Out of 100 photos, I might have 1 to 10 that work sometimes. And the downside is I have to eventually go through all those photos, and so it might take me a little bit to go through. And I've kind of learned to make sure I get different angles for the sandpiper that I could have identified. Um, the other birders kind of wanted just one more or two more photos from different angles so they could kind of get a better idea of what some of the features were like. Like they had questions about the bill. And if I had maybe one or two different angled photos, that would have been helpful. And another tip is just to select your background. If you're not getting the type of picture, it kind of blends into the bark or the sky, then maybe try a different angle, move over a few feet to where you have a better backdrop. Maybe there's clouds in the sky and you can kind of backlight it that way, or leaves that you can get a better background from. And anticipate behavior. For the mountain bluebird in the bottom left, it kept going back to the same spot. So I kind of figured, if I focus there, it'll eventually come back and perch with its food. And the same for this Canada warbler. It was staying around the same area. It might move a little bit, but I kind of had an idea of where it would be going. These photos are for me. Well, I like sharing my photos with others. I've kind of accepted that some are just going to be bad. I'm just wanting to make sure I get a photo of each bird so that I know, yes, I saw what I saw, and go from there. And that's okay. And I think that's something sometimes you just have to agree that it's okay if they're what you consider bad. Like this Sabine's goal, this was the best photo I was going to get of it. And I looked through a scope, I got a great look at it that way, and I could tell it's a goal and all that. So I was happy with that. And the same with the least bitterns. I was expecting to find one that day, so I was happy to find 5. And to be able to have the chance of seeing an adult feed its young. So while it's not the best photo, it's a great memory, and I was really excited to be able to at least see it and capture it. And sometimes you realize that you photograph birds that you didn't even realize you did. In this middle photo to the right, I thought it was just snow geese until Charles Mills emailed me back one day and said, "Hey, you have some raw geese in there," and it was really nice and even circled them for me and X'd them so I knew where they were. And I was really excited sometimes because I would go to some of the Christmas bird counts with Dan Shyman, and it'd be exciting when at least one Christmas bird count, I took my photos, went back, went through, um, figured out what birds I had in my photographs, checked her checklist, and I photographed one bird that he did have on the checklist. So I was able to go back to him and say, "Hey, we saw this bird, put it on the checklist." And he's such an amazing birder that I was excited that to know that I did contribute in some way. So in summary, it's me. It's mostly about just taking your time. You'll eventually find your bird. Last summer, my birds were the American bittern and least bittern, and did not expect to find the least bittern, and I did. Luckily on my first try. But the American, I spent several years looking for, and sometimes it would be going down the gravel road, and somebody would be like, "I just saw it 20 minutes ago in this location," and I'd miss it. I was with a friend driving in a car. She saw it on her side of the road fly over, and I saw like a little glance of it out of the side of my eye, but I missed it. So I was excited to finally see my first one last year. And then also mistakes will happen. I've read a eBird checklist wrong and thought it was a new bird when it was really a bird that they're saying, "Hey, it's skittish, don't go see." So I messed up. And I've learned to double check the checklist and other things to make sure that I'm not making mistakes or that I'm not getting too close. And you just have to learn from it and then also not be too hard on yourself or from others because they're learning as well and you don't want to scare them off when maybe it just means they needed to just a simple reminder, "Hey, don't do that." And then again, don't be afraid to ask others for help. You can use one of the Facebook groups for ID help or ask for tips on the birds of Arkansas discussion list. And finally, allow your goals to change over time. While I'm still working to expand my life list for Arkansas and then to take as many photos as I can, I've also expanded my list to complete the daily checklist challenge, and I'm at 952 days now. And then to complete a checklist in all 75 counties in Arkansas, I have 21 left, and that's mainly because I had friends I was traveling with who was trying to get that checklist um, in all 75 counties done, and kind of spurred my own little competitive side. And then my latest is to photograph a bird in all 50 states by age 50. Well, I'm getting really close since I still have 40, and I was almost done with going to all 50 states by the time I decided to add this goal. It's something fun to look forward to. And that's the big thing about birding is to just have fun. And then here's just some more birds that I was excited to find. Of my checklist, I have, 304 birds that I've seen, 300 birds I've photographed, and I have 30 birds that I've seen, but I haven't actually photographed. And until recently, that was four, and it was because I had those cackling geese, which I finally got to knock out this past year. So I kind of raced through this, sorry. But does anybody have any questions?
Unmute yourself and just go ahead and ask.
Yeah, Sarah, I think your experience is pretty much similar to most people who take photographs or trying to find a bird. I had to go to the Hiram Pond, I think 5 or 6 times to bag a tundra goose. Terry Butler would call me and say it's here, and so I'd race up there. I live in Little Rock, and I'd get there and say, "Oh, it just flew over the trees." you know, and I'd leave, I'd get to Cersei, and oh, it's back, and I was like, it's dark, I gotta go home. So it just took me a long time to get that silly bird. Now I've seen several of them, so
That's
it's
the
it's
shorebirds for me. I
uh,
will go and there'll be just a few, feet over from me saying, okay, there's this, this, and this. And I'm like, I don't see it. So it takes me a while.
right. And you just resolve to yourself that sometimes you're just not going to be good at all of them. I've worked on sparrows to the point where I've pretty well got the sparrows nailed down, but the difference between the western and the Baird and the white rump just drive me crazy. They're just little brown birds out there.
Yes. That's why I especially love going in birding in these groups. Like this Saturday, they're going to Bod Knob. I
Mhm.
love those trips because it's always lots of shorebirds, and you have that big collective who are looking and spotting the different birds. So you usually have a pretty good chance of finding or actually being able to see some of those different ones.
Sure. And and I take photographs to help me with my identifications, even though sometimes they're terrible crummy photographs that I would not post anywhere. Sometimes it helps.
Yes.
Or if I'm counting a big cloud of birds, I learned how to kind of divvy them up so that I can kind of size up the group, and if I'm trying to get an accurate count. So that's another reason to take a wide angle photograph of a bunch of birds flying past.
I tend to try to take at least a picture of almost all the birds I can. And then when I go back, it's making sure I'm not, missing a bird on my checklist that I photographed. And then by
Mhm.
the time I've done all that work, I'm like, well, I did the work. It's going on eBird. So sorry, Reagan, that you're having to look at all those photos.
The photos are really helpful. And I was wondering, kind of along with that, you talked about the possible curlew sandpiper. Were there any other birds that you've had where you thought it was a more common possibility, but then because of the photograph, you found out it was actually something rare?
um, yes, I had a time when I was doing, actually in 2023, when Karen Holiday couldn't do the Lake Dardanelle Christmas bird count. I kind of filled in on her section. And when I was doing the route, I found this lesser blackback gull. By the time it was in the very back, and I misidentified it and thought it was just a ring build or something else. And then when I started going through my photos, I was like, oh, wait,
Mhm.
it's not definitely not that. So,
Right.
and then usually it's, I know that there's another bird photo that I posted on eBird. It's of a yellow legs. I don't know if it's the lesser or the greater, but I know every once in a while, every few months or every other year, somebody will flag it and say, hey, that's not correct. And there'll be this discussion of, okay, what is it? Is it greater or is it lesser? And sometimes I will be emailed, sometimes I won't, but I've kind of heard that that's one photo that's always been pegged in the past.
Yes, and I'll just say for anyone who's taking photos of yellowlegs, I mean, it's a really good thing, but there are birders out there who it's kind of their hobby to keep in practice to look through photographs on eBird and to see if they think they're accurately identified as greater or lesser. And and so that is one particular category of birds that we get flags all the time. And then for those of us who review, we have to decide, is this other person right or not? And so it can be a challenge, but any of you who are active on eBird can also do this, and it is a good way to stay in practice, to look through photos of other people and to see if you think they got it right.
I mean, I've been kind of lazy on the yellow legs. I've started doing the joint one just because.
and that's okay. That's okay. I'm curious. You mentioned too that this other program that you sometimes use in the field, to keep track of your list and know what you're missing and everything. What is that, something that's available for others to, or is that something you just created for yourself?
It's actually, so I have this blog that's really just for me to keep track of what I've seen. And so I'll use it just to post my photos and put a few facts about the bird I saw, just because by writing it, it helps me remember. And so occasionally I'll go back and say, okay, where did I see this bird? And it kind of helps brush up my memory of that bird at the time. So really it's just something I created, that I created the forum and went from there. You do not see the name because I don't want anybody looking at it, but because it's not the best. It's just for me and my memory, because I have a bad memory. But I find it helpful. I have it saved on my internet on my phone, so when I'm out in the field, I don't have the best service, I can just quickly pull this up. And so it does show me what I still have left finding the ducks or the sandpipers and all that, or the gulls, because you'll be especially at Lake Dardanelle, when they are always finding all those rare gulls of the Nichols property, or at the dam, that I can quickly look and say, oh yeah, I am missing the little gull or the common tern, and that's something that I want to go chase. And it kind of helps to look at my other list and say, okay, how good is my photo of the fulvous whistling duck, and is that something that I might want to take a go try and get a better picture of? So that's my big use of it, is just trying to see if it's something that I might want to try for a better picture for, or if I need that photo.
I love that. And other questions. I've got a couple more for you, but I'm going to let others have questions. If anyone else
Well, I've got a
has.
question. When the
Okay.
when the booby at Lake Norrell was such a special occasion for you, as it was for so many others, that was at the boat dock of some friends of mine named Martin, and they they lived on a street that had a bird name, and there was something else. It was just, we all had so much fun with that. What's a special memory you have from that on Lake Norrell?
So for the round booby, I did not realize how close you could get to it.
It
I
kept
mean, I really expected him to go to the middle of the lake, or not, kind of far offshore, and have you look and see it, say, okay, point to this dock, it's right there. But no, they were taking you up to the dock and to the house and having you, stand there and look at the bird. And I remember looking out, and there'd be birders from New York and elsewhere, and they would have these long lenses, and the boaters would bring them to the dock, and they'll be like, I can't take a photo here. You're gonna have to back up, go back out in the water. So they had to go back out in the water and get farther away so they can get their good shot when, me at the time I had my 300 lens or smaller. So I was able to get my photos that I was happy with. So,
Oh, that's great.
and the people were really nice. And of course, my aunt and I had to buy one of the brown booby t-shirts.
Oh,
So
good. Well, she worked at the Arkansas State Parks Director's office. No, and just a good person. And she enjoyed meeting every one of you that
Plus, they were really nice about letting us, taking us to see the Brown movie and have access to the lake.
I'll have to share this with her. Thank you. She'll enjoy hearing about tonight's program. Thank you.
Other questions?
Well, Sarah, one thing that I've learned is that, the state is really good, the birders here, that, if you're trying, they'll help you. Even if you are so far off base, it's just ridiculous. They don't judge you too bad. Sometimes they do, but not too bad.
They tease you a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, that's how you learn, is asking questions, and sometimes you learn, sometimes you're right, and people like, no, I'll know about that, and there's like, well, I've got this kind of crummy photograph, and they're like, yeah, you're right, so yeah, you just ask. If I've got a question, used to be able to call Dan, now I have to call Kenny or Michael Wentz or Karen or someone. So, but they answer the phone, so I figure I'm doing something right.
The good thing is you can message them or message a group of them, and they will definitely help you get on the right track. And they'll also help point you in the right direction. I think Stephen Warmack's on this call. He's the one that kind of pointed me to the fact of, hey, start getting those hourly alerts on the rare birds or the needs birds, and then when you get those alerts, if you want to see that bird, go see that bird, because it's not going to stick around. And I've been 5 minutes off just because I got lost going to Kenny and LaDonna Nichols' house to see that red-throated loon, and I still get so mad. But yeah, I've kind of learned, and my boss is amazing at letting me take the time off. He knows now that if I come in the office with a certain look at my face, he's like, what bird is it? And but he's also birding now because of it, so it's all good.
Great. So Sarah, you have spent a lot of time in back roads and all over Arkansas, chasing down these birds. I wonder, most of us know like the big spots like Bald Knob and Hollow Bend and the Port of Little Rock. So what are some of your favorite places you've been that maybe most birders haven't heard of that you would recommend checking out?
Honestly, I think they probably know most of them. I mean, one of my favorite spots to go is between Little Rock and Wynn. My family lives in Wynn, so I'll get off at Brinkley and go to like you're going to Fair Oaks, and then turn off on 306 and take 306 from, I forgot the name of that small little town, but to Colt. And it's just a 15-16 mile stretch, but I always have really good luck at finding lots of ducks, shorebirds, bald eagle families, and then some little warblers and other little things. And every time every year I find something new. This year there was a big field of just tons of shorebirds and other little things that I should have had a scope with me, because I probably could have found a couple more to check off my checklist. But so I like to go there. And then one that's people go to, but I love Lawrence Wildlife Management Area right now, just to the south of Little Rock. It's not so much, I love the boardwalk there, but it's also the road leading up to it. It's been so birdy during the migratory season that I'll spend an hour to 2 hours just on that road itself, just walking back and forth, finding some. And That was actually where I finally found my photo of a hooded warbler that I've been trying for 12 years. So those are my
That-
two big things.
Those are good
Those are
answers.
some great recommendations. So
The most indigo bunnings I've ever seen at the same time were at Fair Oaks. Yeah, and I was watching blue, 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 and then there was a policeman behind me with his blue lights because he caught me speeding, watching them. Yeah, I saw a lot of blue that day.
I've been lucky that I don't have too many. I have a lot of people stop me, but they're usually really nice. They look at me and they just figure I'm lost. And they're just like, oh, honey, what can I do to help you? I've only had one that was kind of cranky, and I just had to be like, look, I'm not fighting with you. Just tell me what you want so I can help do it. And that's all I want to know. So once he kind of figured out that we were got on the same page, he was fine. And then I've only had one other person who he thought I was looking for my cheating spouse. So he saw the camera and he was just like, the girl beside him was hiding behind him looking at me, and they're just like, who are you looking for? And I don't think they believed me when I said I was looking for birds, but they
Birds.
kind of took off. So I still get tickled by that. So
That's a great story.
One of my tips for finding interesting places is chatting up the locals, wherever you are. Particularly if you're in a small town, find the local cafe, not the Subway or the McDonald's. The stuff where the real people go, and they'll tell you where stuff is. Usually, I open with, "You got any eagles around here that you see on a regular basis?" Because everybody likes to talk about eagles. That or ducks if you're over in the duck areas, unless they think you're trying to poach the ducks, which I've been accused of trying to do a couple of times. But yeah, going into the small cafes or the burger stands or something, excellent place to pick up tips of where you should look for birds.
well, usually in some of the areas that you're going to run into some other birders, especially if you're at Bon Knob or um, some of these other places that we go to, like Atkins Bottoms, and they've been there for an hour or 2 hours, and they just say, hey, go around this bend or follow me, and I'll take you to where I just saw this amazing bird that's feeding. Or so.
Yeah. Yes, definitely know your birder cars and chat them up.
That's good.
And that's also the good thing about riding with Karen Holiday on her field trips. I see you're on here. She's good about letting me fall asleep, but she'll wake me up and tell me when, we see something good. So,
Oh,
And then my only other tip for people who are looking for interesting places to bird is get out and drive around. Stop going to the same old places because you're going to see the same birds. You gotta, particularly if you're doing county birding, you see a dirt road, doesn't look too, dodgy. Drive down it a ways and see. I've done that with Dottie and Doris any number of times, and they've kind of picked that habit up. So it's like I cannot pass up a dirt road.
because you've birded in all 75 counties now, haven't you?
Yeah, nominally speaking, a couple of them were, there's a bird, we're good, let's keep going. Some of them far northern ones, but yes, I've done all 75.
You're one
It
of those
was
people that's
chore.
kind of pushed my goal to do that. You and Nancy Young.
And given that these days I don't do much walking and even driving can be a bit of a challenge, you can accomplish it with enough drugs and determination.
Hey, Cindy, before we start the business meeting, first of all, Sarah, that was a great program. Really interesting.
yes.
Very
Thanks.
much enjoyed it. And
Yes.
now that since we've got Reagan and a big group on right now, Reagan, you had sent me an email a while back. I was still using, this is the eBird. I was still using American/Fish Crow. crows that weren't talking, because that's what we were told to do in the early days. And you emailed back and said, we need to switch to using crow spa. And so that's great. I've been trying to pass that along on my field trips and stuff. And then my other question is, in the early days, I was told to choose red-shielded coot rather than American coot. So I need to know which is the one you want us to use for coots here in Arkansas.
That's a good question, Karen. And that may be something I need to check with Taylor about. But I think American coot will not give you a flag. You know, it's always good to use a subspecies if you can, but that sometimes can create flags on eBird. But that specific question about the red shielded, I'll have to check with Taylor, because he's the one who gives that the specifications to us.
Yeah, because I never get a flag on it.
Usually if there's something that we want to change the way that people are reporting them, Taylor will set up a flag on that, so that, like with the slash crow, with, you know, American crow / fish crow, that was kind of the old practice. And then Cornell came down and said the best practice is just crow species, or, you know, crow spot. And so we're trying to enforce that by creating a flag. And so if any of you have run into this, like, I think most people who use that have now gotten an email from either Ari or I or Taylor, but it's, the best practice is just to use crow species, and we are not challenging you for using a non-vocal crow and not identifying it, because that's a good. Definitely don't try to identify your non-vocal crows as a species, but we just try to get everyone to use the best practice that Cornell is telling us.
Yeah, and I was getting flagged a lot with the American / fish crow, and I'm wondering why. So I'm glad you cleared that up. So now I don't get flagged on the coot, but it'd be good to know whether we should use red shielded or American.
I will check into that, but
maybe post on our bird, possibly post once you find out. Post on our bird.
I will do that. So, but speaking of this, and back to, you know, what Sarah was sharing with us, I do think, you know, photographs, whether they're good photographs or bad photographs, if they are identifiable photographs, they are an important contribution to eBird. And so I think we can certainly learn a lot from the folks like Sarah and Steve that take a lot of bird photographs. That's very, very helpful. And Dan Chyman years ago told me sometimes like a really blurry photograph is actually like better for learning ID than something that's you know, a really polished photograph. So like I had a, you know, really badly digiscoped Pacific loon photograph that was really mostly a silhouette, but it's still identifiable, and so that's oftentimes how you're going to see something is, you know, way far away, and you're just going to see a tiny silhouette. And so even if you don't have the kind of skills, then still take that photograph if you can. Well, Sarah, we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us and share your birding journey, and look forward to hearing how all the next goals move towards their fulfillment.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Appreciate it. Okay, well,
we are going